Hello and welcome to the Shed Show. I am your host, the Shed Man. And I thought today we'd talk about Malaise Era cars. I happen to have one here, and if you don't...
Hey, Uncle Jesse. Where's Daisy?
We're going to be taking a look at one of these early Malaise Era cars, my 74 Dodge Coronet. If you're not familiar with the term Malaise Era, malaise means a general ill feeling. And the big three were definitely not feeling too well during the early 70s through the mid 80s. They had federally imposed regulations, the likes of which they never had to deal with before, and they incorporated these regulations into cars that had their basic designs rooted in the previous decade and earlier. And also, they had to deal with the growing onslaught of small import cars and gas shortages, along with trying to predict what would sell in the future. America's desire for cars that increased in size and power every year had reached its end, and whether anybody wanted to admit it or not, so was the ability to manufacture such cars within the constraints they were shackled with. This combination of factors resulted in some cars that were not as aesthetically pleasing as the previous offerings, as well as a rapid decline in the build quality, fit, and finish. And here's some examples of them. Great big bumpers and once mighty V8 engines that were choked to death with the early attempts at pollution control. Let's take a look at mine. Okay, these bumpers, a bumper like this you wouldn't have seen pre-1973. This is something the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration mandated that these cars had to have on them. It has a 5-mile-an-hour impact bumper. They had to take a 5-mile-an-hour impact to a solid object without doing any major damage to the headlights, grille, radiator, and stuff like that. You know, the insurance companies brought that on, and they had to have them on the front in 73, and in 74 they had to be on the back as well. So when the big three automakers were forced to do this stuff, they just, you know, they work on like a 3-year cycle. You know, the cars they were designing right now are the cars that are going to be available 3 years from now. You know, back then I think they're pretty similar now, but they're trying to do all this stuff. Same time you had your corporate average fuel economy stuff going on, but this stuff was just hastily thrown on here. And if we look here a little bit closer, this is a hood. It's not a captured hood. And if you notice this nose, see this gap right here? This nose that bolts on the front of the fender, it's not lined up too good. They just stuck it on there. They didn't have time for it. And then the hood, as you've seen there, the hood is sticking out further. If you look at it straight down this way, you can tell. See how it's sitting out? It's up high. And if we follow on down through here, this line isn't too bad, this gap. It starts getting bigger back here. Then here, if we see, that gap gets big and it's setting up taller than the fender. Again, that's a hood adjustment that could have been made at the factory, but they was having a heck of a time getting, there's 4 pieces you gotta line up. You gotta line up the fender, this front nose piece, that fender, and the hood. And they made this so the hood, a trick you'll see a lot they do now is, you know, some cars will show you a picture of a 68 Barracuda here, and you see how the hood is captured in it. So it has a cowl, a fender, and a fender, but the fender on a Barracuda come all the way out here, so they didn't have these add-ons they had to fool with. But the hood sits inside of it. There's something inside of here. But this hood, I'll show you here, it sticks out here, so you don't have to, this all just kind of covers up, and if it doesn't line up too good, you can't tell. But they still had a hard time with it. This side isn't as bad, but it's sitting a little bit low on this side. Let's see if I can remember how to open the hood. I'll find it directly. There it is. And it works. But again, they would have had to do some adjustments back here on these hinges, and they didn't feel like fooling with it. That's all they had to do. They had to make this little catch right here, which is, as you can see, is pretty wide. See how wide that is? It had to come down here and catch it here. So they had, you know, same thing on the trunk. All they had to do was line up in here someplace, and they had to, you know, it aimed pretty good. Plus, got plenty of adjustments here. If they could get the hood to close and stay closed and get it halfway lined up, they just said the heck with it. But That's part of a lot of problems with these Malaise Era cars. They were just hastily put together because of a lot of this mandated stuff that they had to do. You know, also they had to deal with the cafe regulations, getting their mileage, you know, up a little bit higher, fuel mileage up a little higher. You know, so they had a lot of stuff they had to deal with, and as the years went on, they got a little bit better at it. But this is just a typical Malaise Era car. It's put together pretty. The seams, the fit and finish is not too good on the doors. The cabin itself, this is a design of this Coronet. They had it for a couple years, I believe. So they had it down pretty good. The doors and everything, that fits pretty good. The gaps on them, they don't rattle, they close good and all that stuff. But this is something they had to do real quick. Before this, they had like a loop bumper that went all the way around. And it was pretty forgiving, you know. But see, the doors close good on this one. The fit and finish on that part's good. But they had time to do it. They've been doing these doors and this, they've been doing this part for a while. And they've been doing the trunk lid too, but it's just something they just have time to fit and finish all this stuff. But anyway, that's a little bit about the Malaise Era cars. Oh, I'm going to show you something else. The fitment of this deck lid here is just terrible. Got a pretty big gap on this side, which wouldn't be too bad if they kind of even it up, split the difference a little bit. It's got a small gap on this side, but what's the worst part is in the front here. You got a 3/8 gap here. That could have been moved up a little bit. That would have split the difference, got that gap closed up, and got this overhang in the back shortened up a little bit, but they didn't have time to fool with that. Time to put some cars out. So that misalignment there is going to be, it makes the trunk lid hard, and it opens up good enough and all that. And the light works, they got that right. But all they would have had to done is loosen these screws up and move them down. They haven't been moved, that's the way it was when they made it. Move it in a little bit, that would push this trunk this way. But now, usually, you gotta put some force into it to make it shut. So again, just some more slipshod work. They just threw them together, head on down the road with them, ship them out. And the paint, you know, it needs to be buffed. They didn't do a very good job. There's runs and stuff in it. You know, it's just the way they were back in the Malaise Era. Let's look in here in the glove box. We'll find the owner's manual and that the light works in the glove box. And everything is well. We come up here and look at the Coronet Charger owner's manual. And you got some stuff in here about some of the safety features. One of the things I wanted to show you is this clunky seatbelt system they had. A lap belt and a shoulder belt had to be assembled while you was trying to get in the car, and if you didn't fasten it, the car wouldn't start. It had a reminder as well as an interlock, and nobody wanted this. Nobody wanted this no more than Iggy Pop wanted a pack of t-shirts for Christmas, but you got it anyway. And here's some more stuff they had to deal with: proportional exhaust gas recirculation, evaporative emission control systems, and Chrysler 1974 cleaner air system. Ugh. All that being said, I still love these cars. I love them. These were the cars when I was growing up in the 80s. These are the kind of cars you got when you was a teenager. You know, some old B-body. I mean, if you was lucky, you got these. If you was real lucky, you got something from the 60s, but it was usually completely clapped out. So you'd end up with some of these hand-me-downs. As a matter of fact, I believe my first car was a 72 Coronet, about this color, that was a hand-me-down from my dad before I even got my driver's license. But yeah, I love them. So don't get me wrong, but they did have their faults, like anything. But I was digging around in here on this one and getting the broadcast sheet, and you Mopar men know what I'm talking about. I got the broadcast build sheet from underneath the back seat. While I was in there, man, I found this old Pale Mail or Camel or something, or Lucky Strike, and I haven't smoked a cigarette in a long time, trying to quit. But this is a cigarette from the Malaise Era that somebody dropped down underneath that back seat. So I'm gonna fire this thing up and see what it's all about. That tastes kind of funny.
Yeah, I'd like to go back in time, back to the Malaise era, back to the 70s, man. That'd be wild.
I think I'm tripping.
Okay, man. That most definitely was not a Camel no filter. Man, I think I've traveled back to like 1976 or something. Oh, man.
Hey, Uncle Jesse.
Okay. What I need to do is chill out. I just need to chill out.
Hey, Uncle Jesse.
I'll calm down here a little bit.
Hey, Uncle Jesse. Hey, Uncle
Okay,
Jesse.
just relax, Jed, man.
Hey, Uncle Jesse.
Relax. Hey, man, I'm tripping.
Hey there, Uncle Jesse.
Hey there, boy. What are you eating?
Crayons?
Well, I know. Martian cigarettes. Here. Try one.
No. That'll lead to the hard stuff.
Oh, no, man. This is the hard stuff.
Man, I got enough problems with the booze and all. I don't need that. Okay. All I gotta do is get this old Dodge up to, what is it? It's 88 miles an hour. And I gotta do a few things, a few modifications. And I need to get back to my own timeline. Yeah. Come on, we can do it. Baby, we can do it. Bumps. Here we go. Come on, baby. You can do it. Man, this is wild. Oh man, I'm tripping again. Hold on. I got this. I can do it. Whoa. 70, 75, 80, 88, let's go! Holy shit! Y'all have fun yet? Let's go. Ooh, that was a trip. No more time traveling, no more smoking funny cigarettes for old Dad.
Hey, Uncle Jesse. How do you feel?
How do you feel?